Hello students, welcome to fifth lecture of atomic structure. So in previous lecture we discussed about atomic number and mass number of atoms and isotopes and isobars. So now let's move on next topic. So today's first topic is drawback of Rutherford's model. So as discussed earlier, Rutherford carried out some experiments, and from experiments he suggested that atoms are like solar system, where nucleus, that means protons and neutrons, acts as a sun and electrons acts as planets, and they are revolving around the nucleus. So when classical mechanics is applied to the solar system, it shows that the planets describe well-defined orbits around the sun. The gravitational force between the planets is given by the expression G into m1 into m2 upon r square, where m1 and m2 are masses and r is distance between them, and G is gravitational constant. So first of all, what is classical mechanics? So classical mechanics is a theoretical science based on Newton's law of motion. It specifies the law of motion of microscopic subjects. So as we know, what is classical mechanics in simplified manner? If you want to explain, suppose if you throw a ball, so what will be the description about it? So let us say you are throwing it from this place called A, and the ball will land at this point called B. So this will be the path of ball, called trajectory of ball. So let us say ball took 2 seconds to reach from A to B. So that means total time is equal to 2 seconds, and the ball will move from point A to point B via this curved trajectory. So we can exactly predict where ball will be at first second, or where it will be at 0.5 second, or let us say distance between A and B is 10 meters. So what is the time requirement when ball is at 2 meters? Okay, we can find out all of these values if we know the speed of ball, angle of throwing and trajectory. That means we can predict each and everything for macroscopic objects. Macroscopic objects, that means objects which has comparatively larger size and sufficient enough weight. As for example, even a sand, grain of sand can be considered as macro object, because atoms, ions and molecules are very tiny particles. Okay, so they are called micro objects, whereas grain of sand or metal ball or car or bike or fan, etc., these objects are macro, that means large in size. So larger sized objects follows classical mechanic, and they are based on, as mentioned here, Newton's law of motion, whereas tiny particles or subatomic particles like electron, protons and neutrons, they follow quantum mechanics. Okay, and we will discuss about it, and you also going to learn about this in physics as well. Okay, so when classical mechanics is applied to the solar system, it shows that planets describes well defined orbits around the sun, and expression can be given as follow. So the theory can also calculate precisely the planetary orbits, and these are in agreement with the experimental measurements. As for example, let us talk about a practical scenario, so we can understand this point. Now, uh, I think you may all remember we did a Mars mission in November 2030, and it took almost more than 300 days to reach Mars. Okay, so let us say this is our sun, and this is the orbit of Earth. Okay, and this is our Earth, and second orbit is for Mars, and let us say this is Mars. So as mentioned, our Mangalyaan almost took more than 300 days, 320 plus days to reach Mars. So direction or trajectory of Mangalyaan is not straight like this. Okay, because when Mangalyaan is launched from this point, that means from Earth, let us say if Mars is here, then when it will reach to the trajectory or orbit of Mars, then Mars will be moved from its actual location, and now it will be present at maybe some other location, because as we know, Earth completes its rotation around the sun at 365 days. It took 365 days. So same thing is applicable with Mars also has its yearly system, so that means it is also revolving around the sun. So when Mangalyaan is reaching to the orbital of Mars, it may be moved. So what is the actual trajectory of Mars, or sorry, actual trajectory of Mangalyaan? So it will be something like this. So when Mangalyaan took off from the Earth, Mars will be somewhere else, and the trajectory of Mangalyaan will be something like this. It starts from Earth in this type of direction, and it will reach at orbital of Mars. So scientists first have to calculate when Mangalyaan, or suppose our spacecraft, reaches to the orbit of any planet, so at the given time where is the possible location of that planet. So they calculated it carefully, and they can exactly predict where it will be when it after 320 plus days, so that Mangalyaan will reach it at exact time. Okay, so when, as suppose initial time Mangal was here, and after 320 plus day it will reach here, and so the Mangalyaan and they will meet at common point. So that's how classical mechanics works. We can exact predict location, velocity of macro objects. That means what will be the speed and where it will be at given time. We can calculate both of them at the same time with precision. So now let us apply same thing on atomic model. So as mentioned, the similarity between the solar system and nuclear model suggests that the electrons should move around the nucleus in well-defined orbit. Further, the Coulombic force K Q1 Q2 divided by R square, where Q1 and Q2 are the charges and R is the distance of separation of the charges, and K is the proportionality constant. So that means this equation almost resembles previous equation mentioned for solar system. That means instead of G we have K as a constant. Here we have masses of massive bodies like solar system. Suppose m1 represents mass of sun and m2 represents mass of earth, and R is the distance between sun and Mars. Similarly, here we have K as a constant, Q1 let us say charge of proton, Q2 charge of electron, and R is the distance between electrons and protons. Okay, so we can see some similarities between them. So between electrons and nucleus is mathematically similar to the gravitational force. However, when the body is moving in orbit, it undergoes acceleration even if it's moving with constant speed in the orbit because of changing direction. So this is the example of this type of scenario. As we can see here, a boy is rotating a metal ball tied with strings. So when this ball is rotating in circular motion, it continues gets accelerated. Why? Because when accelerated, things try to move in straight direction. That means ball is actually trying to move in this type of straight direction, but because it is tied with this string, okay, that means center, it has to move in circular motion like this. That's why it feels acceleration. So the electron in the nuclear model describing planet-like orbitals, they should feel acceleration. According to the electromagnetic theory of Maxwell, charged particles when accelerated should emit the electromagnetic radiation. That means radiation containing electrical and magnetical both type of energies. And this feature is not present in planet because they are not charged particles, so therefore electron in an orbit will emit the radiation. So here is a contradiction. In our planetary system, planets and solar sun, they are not charged particles, so they need not to emit electromagnetic radiation, whereas electrons are revolving around protons or nucleus which is positively charged. So that means both of them are charged particles, and when electrons are revolving around the nucleus, it must emit electromagnetic radiation according to Maxwell's theory. So if electrons are emitting radiation, that means they are emitting one type of energy. So as we know, according to law of thermodynamics, we cannot create or destroy energy, we can only convert into one form of energy to other form. So an electron in an orbit will emit radiation. The energy carried out by radiation comes from the electronic motion. The orbit will thus continue to shrink. Okay, it must shrink. Calculation shows that it should take an electron only 10 raised to minus 8 seconds to spiral into the nucleus, but this does not happen. We know that. That means if electron is revolving around this nucleus like this, then it must emit electromagnetic radiation. And if it is emitting electromagnetic radiation, then because of circular motion it will continuously increase its speed because of angular momentum, and by losing energy, orbital will shrink and eventually electron will meet with nucleus like this. That means actual orbital of electron should be like this, spiral, and finally it will meet with nucleus. And from this starting point to this ending point, according to calculation, it should take only 10 raised to minus 8 second. That means it is very small number. So this is the limitation or drawback of Rutherford's model. It cannot explain stability of atom. So if the motion of electron is described on the basis of classical mechanics and electromagnetic theory, one question arises, then let us consider electrons as a stationary. That means they are not at all moving, or they are stable like nucleus. So problem with this is, then electron and proton, because of electrostatic attraction, as mentioned earlier, unlike charges attracts each other, they will end up mixing with each other because of strong attraction obtained between them, produced between them, and they will produce miniature version of Thomson's model. And another serious drawback of the Rutherford model is it says nothing about the distribution of electrons around the nucleus and energies of these electrons. Electrons have different energies. Some electrons have more energy than others. So we cannot explain this phenomenon using Rutherford's model. And they are not at equal distance. Distance of electron from the nucleus is different. So again, we cannot explain it this from the Rutherford's model. So now we know that earlier models of atom have some drawbacks in them, and we need to find more accurate structure of atom. So let us move on more accurate structure and development of leading to the Bohr's model of atom. So historically, results observed from the studies of interaction of radiation with the matter have provided immense information regarding the structure of atom and molecules. So Neil Bohr utilized this result to improve upon the model proposed by Rutherford. So these two development played a major role in development of Bohr's atomic model. First is dual character of the electromagnetic radiation, which means that radiation possesses both wave-like and particle-like properties, and second one, experimental results regarding atomic spectra. Now first point is, as we know, we can measure wavelengths of visible light, and our each and every visible lights have their own different wavelengths. Now what is wavelengths? First we need to understand what is wave. So suppose we have a steady surface of liquid, so when we disturb this surface, these type of waves will be generated. Okay, so this is a simple representation of wave. Similarly, lights also have these type of waves, and that's why we can measure their wavelengths. So what is the wavelength? Suppose this is the wave. Okay, so starting from this point to this point, this distance is called wavelength. If energy is more, then wavelength will be less, and if energy is less, then wavelength will be more. Why? Because as we can see, in this unit distance we can pack more waves than this. Suppose these two are same length, then we have comparatively more number of waves in shorter wavelength and less number of waves in longer wavelength. So this is the wave. Now light radiation, or it is also visible light is also one type of electromagnetic radiation. So this represents, it contains wave nature because it is one type of wave. Similarly, these light particles also act as particle. That means, as for example, suppose you have a solid ball, then we can throw that ball, it will collide with surface, then it can change its direction, we know that. Okay, so similar observation is also done with light particles. So we can say that lights acts as wave as well as particle. So it has both type of nature, wave nature and particle nature. It is called dual nature or duality. So first point is, light or electromagnetic radiation possess both type of nature, and second, experimental results regarding to atomic spectra. We will discuss it in upcoming point. So first we will discuss about the dual nature of electromagnetic radiation. Experimental results regarding to atomic spectra will be discussed in section 2.4, that means in next section. The wave nature of electromagnetic radiation. So in the mid 19th century, physicists actively studied adsorption and emission. Now absorption, that means when we apply light on the substances, they will absorb energy from light. As for example, if we place black material in sunlight, eventually after few minutes temperature of that substance will be increased. So it represents, it got heat energy from sun rays by absorbing energy from the sun rays. Now similar situation can be reversed. If we place material in cooled environment, then eventually its temperature will decrease, it will become cooled. As for example, if we place a plate in refrigerator, after few minutes temperature of that plate will decrease. Why? Because it is losing energy in surrounding. So it is one type of emission of energy. So physicists actively studied absorption and emission of radiation by heated objects. These are called thermal radiation. Now as for example, when we heat metals at extreme high temperature, it will heat like this. As we can see in these images, heated metals start glowing. That means they are start emitting energies in form of electromagnetic radiation, which is in visible light range. That's why we can see this type of glow coming out of metal. Okay, so this is called thermal radiation. Even our bodies also emits this type of thermal radiation, but it is not visible by our naked eyes because this type of emitted radiation belongs in infrared. region, and infrared lights are not visible by us. Okay, but a special type of glasses, infrared glasses, can see it. So using some kind of infrared cameras, we can record through the walls. That means images like this. Okay, so this represents some infrared images. As we can see, we have some human images as well as rat or mouse or dog images in this case. So heated objects have different type of colors than cooled objects. Okay, so it depends on temperature, and in detail we can see in this image different colors represents different temperatures. So they tried to find out what the thermal radiation is made. It is now well known fact that thermal radiation consists of electromagnetic waves of various frequencies or wavelengths. It is based on a number of modern concepts which were unknown in the mid 19th century. Okay, so right now we know that it is electromagnetic radiation. Light is also one type of electromagnetic radiation, and here we have some example of electromagnetic radiation. So as we can see, it will start from radio waves, and radio waves, as mentioned here, range of radio wave is 10 raised to 3 meters. That means 1000 meters or 1 kilometers. It can be even more than that. So it will start from 1 kilometer or even more. That means a length distance between these two will be equal to or more than 1 kilometer. 2, as we are moving in this direction, as you can see, it is decreasing, and it will end up at 10 raised to minus 12. It is gamma ray. So majority of these rays are invisible for us. We can see a very small portion of this light called visible light, as mentioned here. Okay, so very small portion of light is colored, and remaining portion is mentioned black because it is completely invisible for us. We cannot see ultraviolet and so on, and infrareds and before. Okay, so infrared, microwaves, radio waves, or ultraviolet, x-rays and gamma rays, these are invisible for us, but all of them are electromagnetic radiation. First active study of thermal radiation laws occurred in 1850s, and the theory of electromagnetic waves and emission of such waves by accelerating charged particle was developed in early 1870 by James Clerk Maxwell, which was experimentally confirmed later by Heinrich Hertz. Here we will learn some facts about the electromagnetic radiation. So James Maxwell was first to give the comprehensive explanation about the interaction between charged bodies and behavior of electromagnetic fields on microscopic level. He suggested that when electrically charged particles moves around under the acceleration, altering the electrical and magnetic fields are produced and transmitted. These fields are transmitted in the form of waves called electromagnetic waves or electromagnetic radiation, as we can see here. So magnetic field and electrical field, they are both of them are propagated in x-axis. Okay, but one of the wave is in plane of y-axis and second one is in plane of z-axis. That means they are perpendicular with each other. So as you can see, on z-axis we have electrical field. So electrical field is moving in z-axis, whereas in y-axis we have magnetic field. So magnetic field is moving in y-axis like this. So as discussed, light is also a form of radiation known from early days, and the speculation about its nature dates back to remote ancient times. In earlier days, light was supposed to be made of particles known as corpuscles. That means right now light is we consider light is made up of photons, but in earlier days they gave name corpuscles for the light particles. So it was only in the 19th century when wave nature of light was established. Now from this point onward we will discuss in next lecture. So if you have any confusion regarding to topic we discussed, then you are free to ask.